am coming to you in my favorite teacher outfit because today I'm going to be talking about some things that I have learned in my first semester and a half of being a TA. Because I'm obviously the most experienced teacher ever now that I've taught for one semester. I am currently a teaching assistant at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and in my case that entails lesson planning and teaching 3 times a week for an ESL class on campus. Even though the TESOL program here at UIUC is really, really awesome, there are so many great people that are doing awesome work here. Before I started my first semester here, I felt really nervous and like I didn't know what I was doing. They gave us tons of information. Like, it's not their fault at all. It was more about I was going from working in retail to teaching 3 times a week, and that's a pretty big transition. So even though I was getting like information overload, I still didn't feel like I knew enough. So hopefully, if someone's in a similar position out there, this can help you kind of know a little bit more about what to expect in your first semester of teaching. So I'm going to share 10 tips with you guys that I wish I had known going into my first semester. Some of these I did know, but I just didn't take very seriously. So that too, even if you've heard a lot of these many times from other people, it's not just a cliche. It's actually something that has helped me at least, and maybe it'll help you. So the first thing that I heard a lot of people say was be confident. I am 5 feet tall. People still tell me that I look like I'm 12, and I was really worried that I was worried that I would show up on the first day and my students wouldn't even know I was the teacher. I was scared they would think I was just another one of the students. But everyone told me, act like you're the teacher and they'll know you're the teacher and they will give you respect. They were totally right. I mean, when you're standing in front of the room and you're dressed, fairly nicely, they generally know, this is a TA, so maybe they look like they're about my age, but they're still the teacher and I should, listen to what they say. The default setting for students is to treat you like an authority figure, and you have to manually tell them if you don't want them to do that. So if you're worried, like I was, for whatever reason, about students not showing you respect, I say just be confident, go in there and, think to yourself, I'm the teacher and they are going to respect me, and as long as you tell yourself that, they will respect you. My next tip is to plan ahead, but not too far ahead. In the fall semester, my first semester of teaching, I planned most of my lessons the night before, and that worked okay. I felt like I was barely getting by. But as soon as I got the opportunity to plan a little bit ahead, it was probably sometime around fall break or something, I felt like, okay, I have enough time to plan a week's worth of lessons or something. I did it, and it made me feel so much better. And now what I do is plan all 3 lessons very loosely during the weekend, and then the night before I teach each lesson, kind of revisit them and go, okay, I want to tweak this and I want to add that. It's so much less work the night before. But you don't want to plan too far ahead. This was a mistake that I made where one time I think I planned like 2 weeks in advance. And then I got to that second week I planned and I thought this is going to be so easy. I planned it a billion years ago. I had completely forgotten everything that I had planned. So it was basically like planning it again. So I would suggest plan about a week ahead, but past that, it's almost a waste of your time because you're just going to have to think extra hard about it again. The next tip I have is write down your mistakes. Obviously, this doesn't feel great because you're having to think more about something embarrassing that you did in front of your class or something that you thought you were going to get in trouble for. It's not fun to think about that, right? But the easiest way to make sure it doesn't happen again is to write it down somewhere. The first 2 classes that I ever taught, I completely forgot to take attendance. And I didn't even notice it until like the next week when I was about to teach the next class. So what I did was I wrote on my lesson plan, take attendance, and highlighted it so that I would not forget. Normally people don't have to put take attendance in their lesson plan, but I did it for a week or 2 until it was so ingrained in my memory that I didn't have to write it anymore. I have a Google Doc where I take all my notes. It's kind of like my agenda, like my to-do list is in there, different notes from different meetings are in there. It's just one giant Google Doc of a bunch of things related to the courses I teach and the courses I'm taking. And one of the things I have in there is something that I just called ways to suck less. You don't have to call it that if you want something more motivating. And I mean, let me just show you what I have in here. It's just different ideas that I have throughout the semester, things that I realized I did wrong and I want to improve on. And before I teach in fall 2018, I can look back on this and go, okay, I need to do this and not that. Another really cool thing that they do in this department is have us fill out a retrospective syllabus for each semester so that we go through each day that we've taught and say, I think this activity worked really well, I want to use it again. This activity was okay, but they might need more time, and this activity was not good, I need to replace it with something else. Things like that. So keeping a list or a retrospective syllabus can be super duper helpful in making sure you feel more confident the next semester. My next tip is to try everything. It's a Zootopia reference, woo! Okay, your university and your program that you're in are such good resources for different opportunities that you can do for professional development, for learning, for all these awesome things. Take advantage of it. In the fall semester, people kept encouraging me to apply to be a course leader. And a course leader is someone in our program who works with like the finer details of each course, plans meetings each week where we kind of go over, okay, these are the classes that we need to teach next week. This is what we taught last week. How did that go? Here are some administrative things that we need to talk about, that kind of stuff. And people kept encouraging me to sign up for that. And I was like, nah. I don't have time. I'm not gonna get it because it's my first semester. And at some point, someone convinced me well enough that I applied and I got it, and now I'm making more money. I'm working more hours, but I'm making more money. Another thing that people kept talking about was presenting at conferences, and I was like, that sounds like so much work. I don't want to do it. It is a lot of work. I mean, I'm not gonna lie that it's a lot of work. But my friend Crystal and I worked really hard on an abstract for video games and learning, and we wound up getting accepted to a couple different conferences, and we made this lovely poster and we presented it, and it was super fun. So that was a really, really good experience. Again, that if people hadn't kept telling me, please do, just try it, I wouldn't have done it. Obviously, don't apply for literally everything. But also don't go into it thinking, I'm just going to teach and I'm just going to learn and I'm not going to try to expand my boundaries any more than that. It's always a good idea to try to break out of your comfort zone just a little bit. The next tip I have is to remember that your learning comes first. Your students are important, right? But you are a student as well, and it's important to keep an eye on your grades and just be aware of, if you feel like your work is starting to affect your schoolwork. And normally, most programs, I like to think, are very understanding. If you feel like your grades are starting to be effective, there's normally someone you can talk to. Are there any resources for me? Can someone help me? Or what are my options? And they're usually very helpful and, like I said, understanding of that. The TA-ship is obviously a great experience, but your grades are important too. The next thing that I've learned is that a shared office space is very often going to be more of a place for socialization and less of a place for work. I am in no way hating on my office mates. I love them. They're super sweet. They're very fun to talk to. But sometimes I need to be in a place where there aren't people who are fun to talk to. So if you have a shared office space and you didn't lesson plan the night before and you really need to do some last minute homework or lesson planning or something like that, cafes, campus library, maybe even the student center, those are going to be your best friends in those moments. I spend a lot of time in my office, and when I'm doing things that don't require 100% focus, I love being in there. I get a lot of work done and I talk to my friends at the same time. It's just important to remember that if you are going to have to focus 100%, sometimes it's better to go somewhere else. But yeah, shared offices are lit. This kind of ties into another like mini tip, which is make friends. I thought that, I'm only gonna be at this school for 2 years. I'm probably not gonna have time to like make super close friends. I was definitely wrong about that. I've met a lot of super awesome people here. We have, movie nights and dinner nights and game nights and all these things completely outside of the program. Not like a program sponsored event or anything like that. And yeah, some of my best friends now are from this program. Another tip that I have is if your TAs are protected by a union, definitely join that union. For us, it's called the GEO, Graduate Employee Organization. It's important to join a union if you have that option, because you never know when the administration is going to try to take away your tuition waivers and you're going to have to go on strike and it's going to be a whole thing. That could be a video on its own. For now, I'm just gonna say join a union if you have that option. It's very important sometimes. Eric just got home. Hi. Eric. Nope.
Hello.
Yay. And the last tip that I have is to ask questions. This goes for like any job, honestly. It's never really a good idea to psych yourself out and think, oh, I shouldn't ask about that, I'll look dumb. Especially when you're new to a job, you always have the excuse that, okay, well, I've been taking in a lot of information lately, it's hard for me to remember everything, right? Hopefully people will be understanding of that. I think normally people tend to be pretty understanding. Another good thing is to know who to ask which questions to. So some questions are going to be obviously very challenging, very advanced, and you can go straight to, the head of department or a coordinator or another professor. Other questions, if you feel a little bit worried that they're going to be like, we've definitely told you this a bunch of times, like, please pay attention. If you're worried that they're going to have that reaction, ask a friend first, or ask, the course leader or head TA or whatever it's called in your program. Ask a peer, basically, and they will be able to tell you, oh, I actually don't know. Maybe you should ask, the coordinator, or they will know, and then you'll go, oh, thank goodness, I should have known that. Good thing I didn't ask someone else first. Don't just let yourself be confused, because that will come back to bite you in the butt. And those are all the tips I have. Obviously, this is just stuff that I've learned from my first semester of teaching, so there's clearly a lot more out there to know and to learn. Maybe after a year and a half, I will come back with another video and be like, this is what I learned from my TA-ship as a whole. But so far, I feel like I've learned a lot. Things that I would have liked to have known or maybe taken more seriously going into my TA-ship, so I thought I'd go ahead and share some of these tips with you guys. I hope you find some of them helpful, whether you are a TA or you're about to be one, or you're just thinking about jobs in general. I hope some of these tips can be helpful for you. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. Bye!